Welcome to the season opening edition of Rink Wrap, presented by Forever Blueshirts. I'm Jim Cerny. That recognizable face right there is Jonny Lazarus, and Morning Cuppa Hockey and Daily Faceoff and all the cool things that you do. Thanks for sharing a few minutes today.
Jim, thank you for having me. I appreciate it. Very pumped that the season's finally here. I'm sick of preseason, so happy to talk about what's going on.
Yeah, I got to tell you, and sick of off season. Like the Rangers had a nice long run, so it was a condensed, quote unquote, condensed off season.
Mm-hmm.
And when you're trying to pump out Rangers material all summer long, and they're not signing, they don't have the money to sign guys, they're unable to make trades and everything. Man, even the preseason looks good to you when that happens. So
I mean, honestly, like I hate all the armchair GM stuff. Like there's nothing more I hate than that like 2 weeks lead into the deadline because everyone's like, oh, well, Gensel fits perfectly here or Vetrano here. Or if we get rid of Kakko and Oth, then we'll get this guy. Like I hate all that stuff so much. Like I love just like talking about the game. And I honestly, but I'm about to take it back because I missed it this summer. There was nothing going on this summer. And I was like, I kind of wish we had like something to talk about. Like, Riley Smith was the only thing that really kind of happened. And no discredit to Sam Carrick, but we all knew where Riley Smith was going. So it was no conversation of where he'll fit, what he'll do, that kind of thing. So I kind of missed it. So I take back all the criticism I give to the armchair GM.
but the funny thing is we went into training camp, went into preseason, and we're thinking, you know what, this is good. Ho-hum. Yeah. The lineup set. We're running it back. Okay, Riley Smith, we know he's going to be in the top line. They're going to put him with Mika and Kreids. You expected nothing to happen, but then boom, Lindgren gets hurt. Boom, VZ gets hurt.
Well, you could expect the Lindgren one.
That's true. I expected him to get hurt, but he usually bounces back in about 3 minutes. But this time it might be 3 weeks, not 3 minutes. But that said, now it gives a little something for us to, watch during the preseason. And there has been no cooler story, as far as I'm concerned, than watching Victor Mancini and what he's done in the preseason. And I saw him a little bit in the playoffs last year, in the Calder Cup playoffs with Hartford. Really liked what I saw. Big kid, good wheels, plays a two-way game and everything. Confident, 22-year-old kid. But, who knew that he would do what he did in the preseason? Boy, he does not look out of place and looks like he's going to get a whack at it Wednesday night against Pittsburgh. What do you think? And what have you seen?
Well, full transparency, I had not watched him previously. Last year I was at a couple of days of training camp, but not the entire thing. Kind of transitioning into my new role last year. This year was the first time I've really seen him up close. And, listen, everyone said it. All the tools are there. He's got the size, he's got the speed, he has the IQ, which I think is most important too, because you need guys, especially right now, that can just take care of the puck. The Rangers are not a team that can afford to just chip pucks off, or high and out off the glass on the breakout and go chase it down and get it and win it back. That's not the team that they are. They need a team that can be connected in all three zones, break the puck out from their D zone, through the neutral zone, into the offensive zone, and then create, off the rush, because they're not a team that dumps the puck in, goes back and get it, and then creates offense that way. But they hopefully could learn how to do that. But Mancini is also one of those guys that simplifies the game. Like he gets the puck in the blue line, doesn't do too much with it, gets to the net, and maybe creates a second or third opportunity, which is something that they lacked a lot in the playoffs last year. He's by far the biggest story of the preseason. I also thought Igor looked pretty good in the games that we saw him in, which is really important. And obviously it's a big year for him as well. And you have to expect he's going to be lights out because the pressure isn't only on him with the team, but it's on him personally as well. So, there are a lot of things to look for. And, I'm super excited. And there are a lot of fans who I know aren't excited just because of how last year ended. But, I can't remember as far back. I was a senior in high school in 2014, going into my first year of junior hockey in 2015. So I didn't get to watch like every Ranger game that following year. Hockey schedule was so busy and whatnot. And I was living in Texas, so I didn't have MSG. But I want to know like how Ranger fans felt after the Cup final loss in 2014, and if they were excited for, because I feel like we should be excited. This is a team that just went so far and has gone that far now in 2 out of the last 3 years. And there are people who are bored of this core and think this core can't do it, which I get, but it's not often that you have a team that's this competitive, this many years in a row. And that's something that should be exciting.
Right. And listen, that core from 2012 through 2015-16, that stretch there.
Similar stretch to this, I feel like.
Very similar stretch with all the runs to the conference final. Now, that group did get to the Stanley Cup final, as you touched on, but there's always a whipping boy. It was Rick Nash. It was Dan Girardi. It was Mark Stahl. The whipping boys, they were there, and now it's, Mika last year, and certainly Jacob Trouba is a whipping boy as well. It seems to be more the focus on that than what the core has done, and what that core did, and then what this core is still in the middle of doing. And you know what? I know the pressure's on, but I could see this team, making a really nice run this season without winning the President's Trophy, without even having to finish first in the division. Of course, you'd like to. I think the Devils are going to be a hot mess this season for the Rangers. That they're going to be a tough out, I think, for that first place spot. But I think when it's all said and done, some people are going to be frustrated with the regular season, but I think this team knows that they need to be ready to go in April. That is the single most important thing. What's your vibe around this group and how they're approaching this season?
I mean, it feels like, and this I feel like has been a talk of training camp, it doesn't really feel like a new year just because everything is so similar to last year. And that was something that Peter Laviolette actually said on exit day last year. And same with Vinny Trocheck. He's a guy that I talked to on breakup day, and I'm apologizing for the glare right now coming in here. But Trocheck said, Laviolette said, if they could have practiced on June 4th, they would have. I think they lost on June 2nd was the game 6 against Florida. And that mentality seems to be going into the, tomorrow night, Wednesday night, opening night. But at the same time, they're not thinking about last year. It's in the past. They don't want to harp on it. This is a brand new team and a brand new season. Granted, it's not necessarily a brand new team. It's, there's 3 new guys in the roster this year, maybe 4. But, last year it was obvious. A new coaching staff came in. It was a no bullshit mentality. They needed to establish something new and build somewhat of a new identity. And I don't want to say new culture because, this team with Gallant still cared about winning, but it was a different mindset. And going into this year, everyone knows the standard that they have to be at. And I think that's so different too, because halfway through this season, probably, maybe about January, February, at some point, the players take over. That's when the culture is at its best, where, last year, Laviolette still, trying to figure out what this group is, plug and play a little bit with some lines. I mean, outside of the Trocheck line, there were still a lot of things that needed tweaking because of the injuries and everything that was going on last year. I mean, we see Edstrom, we see Rempe, Brodzinski comes up, there's all these guys, Zach Jones gets some playing time, and hopefully, granted everyone stays healthy this year, it kind of seems like everything's in place and they know exactly what they have and they know exactly what needs to be done. And if they get a couple bounces that go their way, I mean, we're talking about, I'm sorry for rambling on here, but we're talking about 3 straight losses in the conference final, all by 1 goal. You get a bounce from Cooley, from a defenseman. I think they scored 2 goals in the entire playoffs from defensemen last year. Yeah. You get 1 puck to go your way. It changes things. And my excitement I forgot what the original question is, honestly, just because I've been rambling so long. But you know what I mean? Like, I just think it's a continuation of what they built last year. Last year was the trial run, and this year's the dig in and do it.
So there are so many guys that they're the obvious keys, right? Igor needs to be Igor and healthy. Adam Fox needs to be Adam Fox. Panarin, we've already sweated out, in the preseason, with leaving 2 games early, but looks like he's going to be a go Wednesday. Zibanejad, you'd love to get him back up to 80, 90 points. Those are all the obvious guys, right? Yeah. That need to be themselves. The 2 wild cards here that can make this team go from a really good team to a really great team, I think, are on the same line, and that's Filipino and Capo Caco.
Yeah.
If these guys figure it out, all of a sudden you're running 3 lines deep where, pick your poison. Now, I'm not saying they're on the Panarin level, but pick your poison, really. What third line wouldn't you like against that third line? Now, I get it. They've got to play the 2-way game too. Somebody's got to shut down the other lines. But if you're looking at Zibanejad or Trocheck against the top line, to play a two-way game. But then you're getting production from that third line. Game changer is my opinion. What do you think?
Yeah. And credit to you for not throwing out the term X factor, because everyone loves to do that. And I'm guilty of that as well. So I don't know what I'm saying, but yeah, I think, listen, Filipino last year, you're missing a guy who's a 20 goal scorer. And I just talked about getting that extra goal in the playoffs against Florida. Like, that's where it could have came from. Wenberg, Cooley, Kakko last year. Sure, they were great defensively. They didn't allow much, but they maybe scored 2 goals, I think, the whole run, right? Maybe 3. I know Kakko had 1. I know Cooley had 1, and Wenberg had an overtime winner.
Yeah. That he didn't shoot.
That's all I could really think of as far as their production goes last year.
Yeah, that was it.
But we've seen it, we've heard it. Tampa Bay was I feel like the poster child of it, like having that third line that can chip in the big moments. And listen, Kakko, 2 years ago, 40 points. If he can get up to that again, huge. Will Cooley, we still, second full year in the league. He seems like he's a full 200-foot player. I love his game personally. He's not afraid to mix it up either. If he can pot home 15 goals, maybe get you 30 points, great. And Filipino, there's no reason to believe he can't be a 50-point guy. Hopefully more, but he just doesn't get much power play time, so it's hard to really produce that much when you're not seeing the ice that much in the 5 and 4 man advantage. But like you said, that third line is everything, and that's what lacked last year. Think about that one chance, I think, in game 1 Wenberg had that Bobrovsky robbed him on the doorstep, changes the game. I think it would have been 1-1 that would have tied it up. And Kakko to me it's crazy. I had a one-on-one with him probably 2 weeks ago, and it's nuts that he's in year 6 already. It's crazy just how time flies. But this training camp and this season is the first time where he's basically had an established role, where previous preseasons and training camps, he's been given an opportunity to prove that he can deserve a bigger role. But with the way that his relationship works with Laviolette right now, I think he just knows he has to play responsible, and he doesn't have to be flashy. He doesn't have to put up points. There's almost, there's still pressure on him, but there's almost pressure off of him as well. It's tough, and I'm going to talk to him throughout the season because he's actually a guy who, I've been very critical on in previous years. I thought last year they should have traded him and Othman and tried to get Frank Petrano. I know Frank personally, so it's a little bit biased for me, but I also thought Frank is the only guy that fit on that top line since they traded Buchnevich. So there was a lot more to that, but Kakko is very accountable, understands the position he's in. He's always willing to talk and be open and honest with media, and I really respect him for that because it's not easy. It's not easy. I mean, these guys take questions every single day. And, I don't know how I would handle it if I was in their shoes, especially when sometimes the negatives or the questions are negative, excuse me. But that third line is everything this year because we know what we should get from Trocheck's line. You're hoping that Mika is better at 5-on-5 and that Kreider can continue his production and Riley Smith fits in well. And the only question mark is that third line. So, we'll kind of see what happens with those 3.
So I think it's on the record, right? Your Lafreniere prediction for this season?
Yeah, it is very much so on the record.
1-0-0 says Johnny. 100 points. 100 points.
I have
Johnny. I love you, man.
Yeah,
I love Lafreniere. 100.
Well, it's not this year. It's at some point of his career. It's any season.
Are you adding seasons together is what I'm asking.
No, I'm not. I believe in this kid so much. I'm telling you, and I remember the exact game where I saw it last year. He played, I think like February, like mid-February. It was a game at home against Dallas. The Rangers ended up winning that game like 2-1. Lafreniere must have set up 5 grade A chances, probably had 2 of his own. Nothing went in. No production, but I was like, this kid, he does this he's doing this all the time. I actually credit to Dmitry Filipovich, who does a great job with his PDO cast, or I think that's what it's called. He puts out these like individual highlight tapes of certain players every year. I watched the one of Lafreniere. I actually made my own little edit into a 13-minute video of all the chances and opportunities Lafreniere created that did not go in. I'm telling you, that kid could have had 80 points last year. Easily. And at some point in his career, I mean, he had 26 even strength goals. That's not easy to do. You put him on the first power play, that could add at least another 15. If he's getting consistent first line minutes, that's what's my math there? That's 41 goals, right? Is that the math? But you know what I mean? Like, he's a playmaker. He works his bag off on the back check. He's become such a good skater. And I think that was something that was lacking in previous years. And he does so much away from the puck. I think a big part of Panarin's 120-point season last year was everything Lafreniere did for him as well. And people said that Panarin broke out Lafreniere. I think it's actually the opposite, because Panarin's never had that much production in his career before. He played with Patrick Kane. He still produced, but you got to give credit to someone else, and Trocheck's a big part of that too. But yes, I think at some point in Lafreniere's career, when he gets the full number one overall treatment, getting first line, first power play, being the guy, which he's shown he's capable of. I mean, everything he did in the playoffs last year, that's him, right? Like, he's him, whatever you want to say. I cringe saying that. I regret that. But you know what I mean? Like, he's shown that he can do it, and I believe in him, and hopefully he does it someday. And I'm telling you, if there's a point where he has 99 points, I will be streaming that game or watching it at a bar or something, and I will be going nuts seeking that 100th point.
I tell you what, I mean, obviously he had me won over last year for sure.
Yeah. But I feel like people didn't catch on until later.
I agree, but he had me won over. But where he really, really won me over is when other guys did this in the postseason.
Yeah.
He did this.
Yeah.
His play, he got better and better and was more effective. And that style, he out physicaled guys, if that's a word, out physicaled. He out physicaled guys. He out physicaled guys, but he produced. He actually scored in that series when nobody else was scoring. But he was a difference maker. That is the word that kept coming to mind for me with him in the postseason. And he just got better and better as it went along. Game didn't go south. He got better and better. And that's where I said, yeah. You get, and then you knock yourself and you say, oh, right, he's 22 years old. Mm-hmm. It's another one, like you said with Kakko. This is Kakko's 6th year. He's 24.
Yeah.
He's going to be 24. Lafreniere's 22. Mm-hmm. Scratching the surface.
It's nuts to think about. And I'm telling you, like, I've never laughed my ass off harder in a press box because the next game after I made that take, like, and listen, people were like, who's the, not Jay Fresh, one of those like big head hockey guys or whatever, was like, some guy said Lafreniere can have 100 points. Like, people were talking, it was a talking point for sure, which I was super proud of. But that next game, it was in Jersey. That was the game where the Rangers smoked New Jersey like 5-1. Lafreniere had the second goal off a turnover by Luke Hughes, and then had that sick breakaway goal where he like flicked the puck against the grain glove side, and I forget who was in that. And I was sitting there, I was like, oh my God, this is so perfect. Like, I'm just dying right now. And I'm really happy it's become a thing, because listen, again, like, we're New York fans, New York sports. We love you when you're good. We hate you when you're not. And this is a 22-year-old kid, like you mentioned, Jim, that was catching heat, catching flack about not being the guy, right, for his first 3-4 seasons. And I think in a lot of sports, fans give up on athletes way too soon. So for fans to now be on board and give him the, positive recognition that he deserved after last year, I think it's only going to do wonders for his confidence, because everyone sees it. All these players see it. They hear it. It's, you can say you avoid it, but it creeps in at some point. So hopefully the positive stuff keeps happening for him, because he's going to be a lot of fun to watch over these next few years. Hopefully, if they can sign him long-term after this year.
You know what? Total digression here, because you're talking about the fans and how fans ride players. And I was blown away. I'm a huge baseball guy too.
Okay.
Huge Mets guy, right?
I'm getting into them. Baseball's been a lot of fun.
No, don't tell me.
Hater, but I've had a lot of fun watching.
Don't tell me getting into them. But I don't need anybody on the bandwagon. Okay?
I'm fully on the bandwagon.
I'm watching Mets Phillies yesterday, and Castellanos strikes out early in the game against Severino. And they're booing him all the way back to dugout. I mean, this is a guy who has been a massive producer, a big reason why this team has had success the last couple of years, right? And he strikes out in a game where nobody's hitting Severino to that point, and gets booed. And then all of a sudden, they're piling on, because here he comes. Big home run, game-winning RBI. Oh, that's our guy, Castellanos. And you know what? Fans suck. I mean, let's be honest. At the end of the day, fans are great, but fans suck too.
Well, Come on. It's the ones who, like, listen, I get it. When guys are consistently bad,
right,
you can give it to them. But a guy like that, I mean, listen, I don't follow baseball, but I know enough to know that Castellanos hits some dingers. I know enough. It's funny when that happened. All the tweets I saw were just check on your loved ones. Because Castellanos did something good, I guess. But yeah, with the Rangers, like even with Fox last year, he gets hurt. Maybe he's not himself, but he's still producing and doing well. And people are like giving him shit. Like, it's just. I was always the fan, like to ride or die with your guys, and I'll always try to do that. Like like even this year, I feel like with Trouba, there's a mixed emotion. I've seen some fans say boo him on opening night. What is that gonna do?
Right.
What? He's not going anywhere. He's the captain of your team. What the hell is booing him gonna do?
Yeah.
Like cheer the guy on, build him. Like you're fans of the team. Like it makes sometimes it's backwards, but. Listen, fans are everything, and when you do hate them, sometimes you miss hating them. I don't know. I still think Barstool Big Cat has the best thing I've ever heard. He said like once a year, an athlete should be able to beat the shit out of a fan. You get one pass.
So the Mike Milbury theory.
Exactly. Yeah, one pass.
The stands, take the shoe off, whack him over to that a few times, and. Yeah, move on.
Everyone gets one.
Real quickly then. You mentioned Igor earlier. We could go on and on, wax poetic about Igor. Let's just talk dollars and cents.
Yep.
First of all, does this deal get done before Wednesday, before the puck drops Wednesday? Now that Swayman's done and all that, now it's just Igor, supposedly his side saying, we're not going to negotiate past Wednesday. So do you think it does get done? And if it does, what's the AAV?
How great would it be to wake up Wednesday morning and see a new deal? It'd be great. I haven't really heard anything. Not that I'm necessarily digging for it. I'm pretty patient when it comes to that stuff until, like, let's say the deadline this year where I'll be maybe a little bit panicked. But I'm confident it'll get done. And the number I've been saying is 11.6, just because, I do think he wants to be the highest paid goalie. I do think he wants to be the highest paid guy of the team. Artemi Panarin's making 11.6. So I think 11.7 kind of gives you that like good feeling on both sides where he's getting what he deserves, but it's still under 12, which I think is what the Rangers want to keep it at. Obviously, I think if they can lower that number to like, a flat 11 or a 10.5, 10.7, everyone will feel better about it. But I mean, also, I think it depends on bonuses too. Like the Swayman stuff, the $23 million bonus money, like I don't really understand how that works. I've never dealt with a contract before, so I learned a little bit about it today. So maybe if they can lower that AAV and give him more bonus incentives, like that works for everybody. I still don't know the ins and outs of that logistically, but 11.7 is my number, and I'm sticking to that. What's yours?
So I have it at an even 12. I think he wants the 12. I think he's going to push for it. And at the end of the day, like if it's 11.7, even 11.5, I don't think Chris Jury is going to let that get in the way of, I know it adds up over time and I know it counts against the cap. I don't think they're going to get in the way of it. I think he's going to get his 12. I don't think he's going to get, we've heard 12.9 because he wants 14% of the cap or whatever. I don't see that. I don't see that happening. But 12 still, even 11.7. It's a nice piece of change.
Yeah, it's unbelievable. And I think there are people too who were like confused about the Swayman versus Igor conversation, but it's so different because Igor has all the leverage here. Swayman had some leverage, but not all of it. Like Igor has every single piece of leverage in this, which changes things, right? So, I mean, listen, I would hate to see a world where they let him walk because something's too much money. And, I was too young to like remember the Hank negotiations, but even though they didn't win a cup, I still wouldn't change signing Henrik Lundqvist.
Right.
I wouldn't.
Yep. But, again, there are great theories. Up until Bobrovsky winning the cup last year, how many times were you hearing the argument, well, look at the guys who are winning the cup, Aiden Hill and, Darcy Kemper. And I'm like, and then Bobrovsky wins. And then all of a sudden, like,
changes.
Now we're coming back to the middle again on the argument. So I don't know that we're going to get it done Wednesday, but I don't know that Igor and his side, like if they feel things are moving along, listen, both sides are so good at shutting this down. I mean, the Rangers, it's like Lou Lamoriello runs this team. You're not getting any leaks. Nothing's going to come out. So I think it takes the pressure off. There are no rumors. about this contract or when it's going to get done, or if Igor's pissed, or if Igor thinks it's going well. Haven't heard a peep, right? So I think it makes it easier to let his agent take care of it. Happens in November, happens January 1, whatever. But like you said, I think it becomes problematic if you start getting to the deadline. Certainly, if you get to next summer, I mean, that can happen.
Yeah,
but I think it'll be taken care of months in advance.
Yeah.
Okay. So that said, carried you a long time here, or you've carried me. Probably most people.
No, I'm enjoying it. I could talk this. I could do this all day. You know.
So give me a guy, and you might be Lafreniere. Maybe you tipped your hand or eight. One guy that you're just dying to see that you think is going to just blow it out this year for the Rangers. But give me the guy you're most worried about this season too. A guy that really could be a disappointment. I don't want to be negative here, but a guy that could be a real disappointment.
Well, I think the disappointment, like nervous is not the right word to use, I guess, but more so curious. Because like, what if Riley Smith doesn't work out?
Yeah.
You know, I think that's the one where I feel like you have to be nervous, right? Because if he's not having a great year and he's on a 1-year deal right now and he's upcoming UFA at the deadline, like who's going to want him? You know, will someone want him? Can you trade him if it's not working on the first line? Then you throw him on the third line and move Kakko back up and you're figuring it out again. It's this constant cycle that we have year in, year out. So I think that's like the one area of concern, which I think is probably what 99% of people would say, right? Is there one that you have that comes to mind?
Nope. Riley Smith was my guy, but you know, also we talked about, you know, the third line. There's the potential for disappointment there too.
Yep.
You know, we talked about talked about it all flowers, right? You know, here's what could happen. If things go well, if what if it doesn't? If Heedle gets hurt again, you know, God forbid. What if Kakko, it doesn't work for Kakko and he scores 13 goals, 25 points this season? You know, that's a problem. But to me, I really believe that third line is going to be all right. The flip side being Riley Smith is a concern. Why I'm not super concerned about it is I think they're good enough to survive that. And then Drury's got to nail it at the trade deadline. He's got to find that fit. And maybe it's your boy. I was all over Frank Vatrano last year.
I love Frank.
And he fit. And he's not making $6.5 million a year either. He's making a contract
3.5, 3.6 maybe?
3.5.
Or is it fives? He's in the fives?
No, 3.5.
I think it's 3.5. I'm gonna double check that. I think it is.
Yeah.
He's at 3.6. 6.5. 3.6.
Yeah. I knew it was right around there. You know, and you know it worked already, right? So anyway, so that's why Riley Smith worries me.
Yeah.
But in the big picture, I'm like, you know what? They were good enough to win the President's Trophy with, you know, Blake Wheeler at the end of his career playing most of those minutes on that line. You know, Jimmy Vesey was taking shifts on that line.
Roslovic,
So Roslovic, you know, after the deadline. So whatever Riley Smith does or doesn't do, you hope that it's good and they figured it out. But if not, you still get to correct it. It's not going to be easy. It's going to cost you. It may cost you your Brennan Othman or whatever, but it's going to cost you at the trade deadline to figure it out. But they will have time to figure it out. It's not going to cost them the season if Riley Smith is okay, you know?
Yeah, I agree. Fully agree. And the one I'm excited about, which, you know, obviously Lafreniere would be my choice, but I'll kind of steer it in a different direction. And it's actually Mika Zibanejad. I think last year, and I'm hoping last year is an outlier for what has been a fully healthy, productive career with the Rangers. I mean, you look back to 2 years ago, he has 91 points, 39 goals. The year before, I think, you know, point a game, 80, 81, 82 points. Just trying to remember off the top of my head. The year before, I think, you know, the half season or the weird season, the COVID year, they played less games. But he's never had injury issues. He's always been healthy. He's always produced. Last year was a bad year, down year. No one's denying that. There are a lot of people who think he should be taken off the power play. You take away Mika's one-time threat, it ruins the whole entire setup.
Absolutely.
It's completely different. And, you know, taking him off might limit Kreider's production. You know, there's all these little butterfly effects that happen when you switch something up like that. And I think Mika's spot is the most important spot on the power play, you know, which is why Lafreniere can't be on it right now. But I've said, and I flirted with it. I think Mika could pot home 35 to 40 again, but he's got to be a shooter because last year he was not. So hopefully he learned from that and can figure it out this year. And I'm excited to see Mika hopefully shut some haters up because I talked about it before. The players know, they hear it, it creeps in. He knows, he was aware. You know, he said it last year, next day. We could talk about my 5-on-5 lack of production or whatever. Like he literally said that to the media. So hoping he figures it out, but I'm curious to know who yours is as well. I feel like Keandre Miller is a popular one.
I see. Yeah, there you go. I think he's, you know, I know the production came back last year.
Yeah. Well, especially playing with Fox now to start the year, he's got to be, you know.
But like there, you know, there's an angle we haven't even talked about. Like I'm pretty fired up to see those two play together. You know, we don't know how much longer Lindgren's going to be out. Could be, you know, we're guessing another week, another two, whatever. So that might only be a handful of games, but I'm really curious to see these guys play together. That is a heck of a lot of skill you're putting out there, you know, with your top defense pair, right? And I'm curious to see too Braden Schneider on the left side, and see how that.
To be honest,
so it's a risk, you know, it's a risk, and it, you know, who knows? Maybe they have to blow it up quickly. You know, if all the pieces have to fit. Mancini's got to show that he can play in the NHL, even if it's on the third pair right side. Schneider's got to show that he can not only excel on the right side, but now can he excel on the left side? And some would argue and kind of have to carry Jacob Trouba with them as well. Yeah. And then, you know, and then Miller, you know, it's one thing to, you know, to be on that second pair and kind of focus more on the shutdown and your offense it's a bonus. Now, if you're playing with Fox, people are going to say, whoa, you guys should be lighting, like I just said, be lighting it up, right?
Yeah.
So there are a lot of domino effects there. I'd be curious to see how it gels. And you can't judge it just on Wednesday or Saturday, you know, the first couple of games. But I don't know how many games we'll have it because we have no idea when Lindgren's coming back. So,
yeah, I mean, listen, it's definitely going to make the fans happy that they get to see it, right? I think fans have wanted this for a couple of years now. So it's kind of like a put up or shut up thing. Like if it doesn't work, then fans can kind of shut up about it. And if it does work, then we got to find Lindgren's spot when he comes back. Cause you know, that's going to be a whole different ball game too. Does Mancini stay in? You know, does Jones stay in? Like who's the guy that's going to come out if, you know, both those guys are playing well and maybe Schneider or Trouba's not or whatever, you know? So there's a lot to figure out once Lindgren is healthy. And I imagine that Fox would want to play with Lindgren. They've been partners for years now.
Right.
So it's going to be complicated. The whole year, there's going to be a lot of hard decisions, but these are good problems to have.
So here we go. Prediction time. We already talked about, guys. You know, you think it will take off, guys. I won't. Start with the Metro. Who do you like?
As far as just like playoff teams?
And which teams are the playoff teams and obviously who's going to finish first?
Yeah, I have the Rangers to win. I'm actually doing my Metro preview right now. We have our Metro preview tomorrow morning on the show. So
you're scooping yourself is what you're doing right here.
I guess so. I'll give the spoilers for tomorrow morning show. I have the Rangers winning it. I have the Devils second, Canes third. I don't think a drop-off is going to happen with Carolina like most people do. I feel like it's similar to Boston where it's like a plug and play. No matter who you put in that jersey, they're going to play a certain style under Rod Brind'Amour, and it's going to work. It's going to be fine.
They will. I'm going to interrupt you for a second. Yeah. They will never, ever win the Cup with Freddie.
But they'll always be competitive.
They will be competitive. And I agree. I think they're the third place team there. But how many games, and of course, you give the Rangers credit, you know, for winning that series. How many games did Freddie Anderson lose for them in that series? I mean, the terrible goals. Terrible.
I'm gonna rebuttal, honestly.
Jonny, terrible.
Terrible. Different topic. I think their power play is what killed them. They couldn't score.
Yeah,
they couldn't. They scored one. They scored one or two power play goals the whole series, and their first power play goal came in the end of game 4, and Brady Shea had that bomb from the point. Which won them that game. You know, if they get a power play goal in one of the first 2 games, different series. You know, Anderson was no better. You know, I'm not saying you're wrong in that sense, but I think their power play was a bigger negative than the goaltending.
Yeah, every game. Yeah, every game there was at least one where you're like, oh my god.
Yeah, it was brutal.
Any case, I'm taking away from your moment. So you got those teams making the playoffs, top 3. Do you have a wild card team from the Metro?
I actually have, which is, I know for a fact it's going to be wrong just because this never happens. I have 4 teams coming out of every division making the playoffs. I don't have any teams with, or any divisions with 5 and 3. I have 4 coming out of all of them. And the Islanders are the 4th seed for me, which I didn't say like a month or 2 ago. I was very low on the Islanders, but seeing their first line in preseason, and again, I know it's preseason, but Barzal, Duclair, and Horvat are going to have a hell of a year. They are. And Patrick Waugh just seems like an incredible coach to play for. Also a lot of pressure to play for. You know, he's very demanding, it seems like, as a coach. But I think the Islanders will not necessarily thrive off that, but it'll help them a little bit. It'll boost them a little bit. They don't need that. They're all older guys for the most part, but it'll help them. 5th, I think I have Philly. 6th, I think I have Pitt. 7th, Washington. And 8th, Columbus.
So I'm kind of with you on those. I have the Devils one. I think the Devils, it's going to be give or take. You know, if one of the team, Rangers, Devils, key guy gets hurt.
I think they're 1 or 2.
It's. I think they're really going to be close this year. And the Devils, last year was the aberration. I think, people forget 2 years ago, the season that they had, and they're a better on paper. They're a better, deeper team now. Right. And their younger guys are another year or 2 older. I really like the Devils this year, but Rangers could still win the division. The one I think it's because I love Spencer Carberry so much. Maybe I'm blinded. I love the job that Carberry did last year. I love his honesty. Maybe the most honest head coach.
Great guy to talk
after a game and everything. Right. He direct answers the question and not afraid to say, here are our problems. This guy, this, that guy, that, not running his guys down, but just honesty and saying, let's own up to it. I love Spencer Carberry. I think they got a shot.
I'm very low on them, and I probably shouldn't be, but I just am.
Yeah. I think they'll score more this year. I like the fact that Lindgren, to me, it wasn't even Lindgren Kemper last year. It was Lindgren. I like Logan Thompson there. I like the split.
I don't, to be honest. I don't.
See, I like.
I think they're gonna bash heads. I do.
That could happen too, for sure.
Yeah.
Yep. And Dubois, who knows? He's such a, using Johnny's favorite word, such a X factor. Pierre-Luc Dubois. So
not my favorite word, but
I'm just tossing you under the bus there. All right. So Rangers make the playoffs. How far do they go? Do they win it?
I actually have Toronto coming out of the East. I'm a sucker for doing that this year, but I would love either, listen, obviously a Rangers Leafs conference final, but even like a Devils Leaf conference final to me would be so cool. The Sheldon Keefe story, Toronto getting over the hump and getting to a conference final to only face Sheldon Keefe. That'd be a pretty cool storyline. But no, I don't have the Rangers coming out of it. And obviously it's not what I want to say or what I expect to be received well on this show. But I don't want to say I don't believe, but I just think that division is so strong and those teams are so good. It's going to be tough. Where do you have them going?
Yeah. So I'm not sure that they're going to get to the conference final. That's how much I like. I think they lose a 7-game second round series, all things being equal. Who knows with injuries and all that. I do like the Devils, but I don't think the Devils will get out of the conference final either. I'm fighting myself on this one because logic tells me, how can you get to 3 cup finals? I know Tampa did it. Yeah. And I know they lost key guys, and I know Reinhardt's not going to score 54 goals. They're not going to win the division. They're going to find a way. I think they're going to get to the final. Maybe I'm just right. See, last year I finally got it right. Beginning of the season, I'm like, I was all in on the Panthers. I'm like, they are going to win. And man, they made me look good. But every year I said, oh, this team's going to win. And, I'm always wrong. I was right last year. So maybe I'm riding the horse one season too long. I think they'll get to the final. I don't think they're going to win, though.
I don't think it's a crazy stretch at all. They've built something strong there. And that's, again, like I said, with Carolina and a team like Boston, when you have that foundation set, there's not much that can get in your way. There's really not, no matter who's in the lineup. But yeah, like I talked about it today, even losing like Lomberg and Cousins, who are like, fourth line guys, and Montour just in the locker room. Their locker room was the most fun room I had been in the last like 2 years since covering the league. By far, after morning skate, they're having fun. They're pranking each other. They're just like laughing their asses off. And it's those three guys always. It's always Cousins, Lomberg, and Montour. Like those are the pranksters. So I think that their room will miss those three a lot.
Yeah. See, it's that is key. They lost a lot of key guys. That bottom six,
not even on the ice,
Yeah, but looking at it on the ice, those are, it's not a plug and play thing. Like there was a really good mix there, and you talked to it about what was taking place off the ice. Yeah. And typically that's a champion. And if you want to give, you want to put a check in a box for the Rangers, that's a good room too.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
It's a very tight room. It's a very good room. I know he's the whipping boy. We talked about it earlier. Fans are so down on Jacob Trouba. Not in that room. Not that they love him. They love Jacob Trouba, and yep. He's glue. Should be paid $8 million a year. I get it, but he's glue, and that room is tight. And I think, that's, you talk about things that, go the extra yard or whatever. I think that really carries weight. So when you talk about bringing this whole group back, yeah, there's some negatives to it. I'm a believer in you need to shake up the mix a little bit every year. They didn't really have the opportunity to do that, with the salary cap and all. But the positive, I think, is that you're bringing back a group that is really, really tight. And I think that goes a long way. So if there's, a positive to look at among many for the Rangers this year, I think that's one of them.
I agree. I mean, how could you not be excited about a team that's been 6 wins away 2 out of the last 3 years? That's right. All it comes down to me. Whether they are the team to do it or they're not, there's still so much to be excited about. And I think everyone should at least believe that they can get there, right? Maybe not win the whole thing, but the fact that they can get there, I'm not going to say that's good enough. The only thing that's good enough at this point, I haven't seen a Stanley Cup in my lifetime is winning it. But again, like I don't want to lose sight of the fact that in 2018, we talked about a rebuild. Obviously, it turned into a retool. But now in 2024 or 25, we're talking about a last dance. I'm saying air quotes for anyone not watching. Like,
right.
In what world, in what city does that happen? You look at Buffalo, you look at Detroit, you look at Montreal. Granted, Montreal went to the Cup final like 3 years ago, but they finished in 8th the last 3 years in a row. Buffalo hasn't made the playoffs in 14 years. Detroit hasn't made the playoffs in like 8 years. These are real rebuilds and winning cities and winning cultures that have dealt with shit for so long. We haven't dealt with that. You know what I mean? Like, granted, it's tough. And I actually said this last year, and I'm curious what you think. Just for the generational standpoint, because I've never seen any of my teams win. I'm really only a diehard Rangers and Knicks fan. So I'm not like used to winning really at all. But when they do finally get it done, after that, it's going to be like, what? Okay, well now what? Like there's almost a part of it almost builds the excitement that they're always so close and don't do it, that like I won't know what to do with myself the year after they finally do it. Like what was the 94-95 year like?
Well, that was it. And it's so funny because my son and I were talking about this the other day. My son's more, your generation. He's 27. Yeah. And we were talking about it in the Met perspective. Mm-hmm. And when Alonso hits his, game-winning home run the other night, Ryan, my son Ryan, he's like, this is my generation's moment. Even though we made the World Series in 2015, we've never had this moment. He goes, you've been telling me my whole life about Mookie Wilson and Bill Buckner and then we started talking about hockey and he said, and you're going on and you were there and you covered the Rangers in '94 and Meto, and all the guarantee and all that. And he's like, I've never seen it. Come close. We've had moments. The Henrik years were great, but we've never won. And like I have to pull myself back together to get in that mindset of, well, right, at least I have one. I have one Rangers. I have one Mets in my lifetime, but there's this whole generation that's never seen it, never seen the parade. never seen the cup raised, right? I mean, that's insane. 30, 31 years. It's crazy.
But after you see it, then what?
So there is
it can't be as exciting,
But here's the thing too.
Yeah.
The party continued because if you remember, after 94, there was the lockout. That carried through. So the party continued. We're still Stanley Cup champs, and they lowered the cup from the rafters of the Garden on opening night, which was in January, and then the team went out and, to be honest, they half-assed it for the rest of the year. It looked like they were still celebrating their cup. Yeah. And but it was okay. Like, I'm not saying it's okay for me, but those fans, it was okay. Man, we won. You finally did it. Whatever happened, if we make the playoffs, it's all gravy from that point until all of a sudden it's the year 2000 and you go through those years and they suck and they're terrible and they've got no chance and they sign every worst overpriced free agent ever. And all of a sudden, those same people that were saying, it doesn't matter, this couple lasts a lifetime, now I can die in peace, they're calling BS on that because it lasted for a year, it's maybe two. And then, of course, then you got the conference final run out of nowhere a couple years later, which was an amazing run. Yep, which was a great run. But then all of a sudden you get to these terrible years, and then these people are hot. They are angry again, and 94 couldn't be any more of a distant memory. So in the immediate aftermath, like if the Rangers win this year, there's going to be that afterglow for a year or two.
Give Igor whatever he wants.
And then he allows 5 on opening night 2 seasons later. No, then it'll start.
Oh, really?
The Rangers.
Oh, like you're saying the following
Rangers. Yeah. Like another year or two down the road. Yeah. Oh, same old Rangers. Here we go again. So that was my experience. So in 94, 95, like it was cool. And the Rangers, it was like I know that they were trying, but it wasn't the same sense of urgency, but the fans were okay. They were okay with it. They won a round in the playoffs. Gravy. We won the cup last year, winning around here was gravy. So we got knocked out, we'll win it next year. And then they don't win next year and they haven't won the next, 30 years,
In this age of social media, it has to be us. If it's the Devils or the Islanders, I will lose my shit. Like, because you think about it, you hear about it now about the Devils 2003 Cup still, Imagine hearing about it if it happens before the Rangers. Like, that'd be a tough world to live in. So that's all I care about more than the actual winning. It just better be us for the social media factor.
That's so funny. I have so many buddies of mine that are Mets fans are like, when the Mets just weren't that good or just not good enough, which has been every year pretty much since 1986, they're like, all right, as long as the Yankees don't win.
Yeah, exactly.
I'm like, man, you can't root like that. It's got to be the Mets got to win. It can't be, as long as the Yankees don't win, it's all right. We sucked,
Yeah, I feel that. I feel that.
Johnny, listen, man, I really appreciate it. I could go on and on and on and on here with you.
I feel like now we're just talking.
yeah, exactly. Hopefully we didn't put anybody to sleep, but seriously, really appreciate your time. Love the work you do with Daily Faceoff.
You as well.
Cuppa Hockey. I appreciate it. And see you at the Garden soon. Dropping the puck this weekend. And go get them. Keep it up. Keep up the great work. And look forward to welcoming you back because this was a lot of fun.
Yeah, whenever you need, Jim, happy to come on. This is a blast. And we'll have to get you on the Blue Crew as well when we get that going again. It's been a nightmare of a schedule, but hopefully we'll figure it out once the season gets going. But Jim, thank you again so much for having me on. I appreciate it.